Okay, so I'm going to talk about being a masterful finisher. A masterful finisher. And I've referenced this class I've taught before. After I debuted as a national, kind of spent a lot of time thinking through, like, okay, what did I do well? How did I think? What are some lessons I learned along the way? And here's one of my secrets to success. I feel like I had this deep, deep, deep abiding understanding and belief in the value of 24 hours. And I felt like the weight of the importance of every day when I woke up. And of course, we know that success is defined by your daily habits, and it boils down to what you're choosing to do with the 24-hour cycles that we're given. Every day we wake up and we've got that one 24-hour cycle. And of course, you can't change anything in your life until you change what you do daily. And I was known to say this to Cliff, I just wish today didn't count. You know, just on lazy days and days that I didn't want to work, I'm like, I wish I could just like scratch it off the calendar. I wish today didn't count. And I would say that because I knew that it did. Like I knew that it counted. Just one day, one 24-hour cycle that we're given, it counts. And I knew I couldn't just take a break from obedience for a day without a natural consequence or a delay in promotion or a delay in momentum or a delay in realizing my vision. I just understood it in my bones how important each new fresh day, I knew the worth of it. And so out of 30 days in a month, we just can't afford to not move the ball forward every day. And I don't mean work every day. I've never believed in working 7 days a week. I believe in an intentional day of rest. That's a part of prioritized living, is resting so that you're refreshed for the new week. But that's a part of moving the ball forward. Every day you step up and you move the ball forward. And masterful finishing, I feel like maybe God gave you that gene in your brain, or maybe He didn't give that to you. I feel like it comes very naturally to some people and maybe a little bit more unnaturally to others. But either way, we all develop the skill. Okay, even if it comes natural to you, we all develop the skill of being a masterful finisher. See, I think some people think that finishing strong is like having this frantic, crazy day on the last day of the month and staying up until 1 a.m. and they're like, I finished strong. Or they think like it's about procrastinating on everything that actually needs to happen each day, and then they wait till the last week, and it's this frenzy of stress and working like a dog and staying up late and putting stress on yourself and your family, and then somehow you pull it together and have a good finish. And I admire somebody who can just dig in and work till the end, but that's not finishing strong. That's not what a masterful finisher does. That's a poor management of time and energy. Okay, so masterful finishing is about the day. It's about the 24-hour cycle. So to design a day, execute it well, and finish it well is a skill of great value. To design a day well, execute it well, and finish well is a skill of great value, and we do that every day. We can do that every hour, and that's what masterful finishers do. They do it every day. And so sometimes I'll hear a consultant or director say, oh man, I just kind of checked out for this month or this quarter or this week, and now I'm back, I'm ready to work. And I'm like, what? You like checked out for a whole week or a whole month? And when we check out for a quarter or a month, or guys, even a week or a day, it can cause months and years of delayed promotion because of loss in momentum, loss in vision, loss in focus, and because of natural attrition. Okay, when the leader's not out in the front vision casting, saying this is where we're going, this is where I see you, this is where I see us, this is who we are. If the leader's not out in the front doing that, there's just natural attrition. People aren't going to stick around when you're not out in front casting that vision. I do think that checking out for a day, I think there's two big causes for that. And when I say check out for a day, it's like when you're really not showing up with a plan, you're just kind of reacting and responding versus being proactive, not working. You might be working, but it's not in like the full obedience and full potential that you could have. And I think a reason could be because of guilt or confusion about your calling. When you're working, you're feeling guilty because you're not with a family. When you're with the family, you're feeling guilty because you're not working. Just confusion and guilt about that. And I think working through the workbook that Pam gave all of us helps to bring clarity to that. So there's not guilt when you're working, there's not guilt when you're with your family. I think another big reason is lack of delegated help. And we become so overwhelmed by the amount of things that need to get done that we just can't even move forward. Like, I'm so overwhelmed, I just can't even take the next step, so forget it, I'm going to check out. Also, when finishing well, there always has to be action and belief. And I want to talk a little bit about belief. Because we have to choose to believe every day. We have to choose to hope, choose to protect the vision, choose to fight against the feelings of wanting to throw in the towel. And we have to really learn to push back and be intentional about the negativity. And we do that with affirmations, good books, sermons, podcasts, Voxer messages, training. Like, we really have to immerse our minds into building our belief. And Julia just gave you a really practical way to do that. Look for a miracle every day. Talk about the level of expectation that you have, just looking for God to work and practicing, having eyes of gratitude and looking for God's favor. So that's a practical way to build up your belief. So I had this coaching call with a director in our area last week before we came here. And she's been working on Cadillac for a while. And we were doing the coaching call, talking about strategy, what her plan was, her numbers, her people. And it all sounded really good. I mean, she's got it. She's got skills. She understands it. She had a great plan. But there was I could just sense that there's something missing. And I stopped and I asked her, I said, do you see yourself as a Cadillac sales director? And without hesitation and without even thinking about it, she said, no. I said, there it is. We can talk action and strategy all day long. But if you don't believe it and you're not affirming to yourself it's going to happen, there's you, there's the Cadillac. Your belief is the obstacle you will continue to trip over until transform that. And so I encouraged her to have this come to Jesus moment and to identify all the negative thoughts connected to Cadillac. Just purge them out. Just get them out. And then encourage her to create an affirmation to push back against that negativity and really just pray for God to transform her belief. And here's what she said. She's like, I've tried so many times before. Why will this time be different? I've tried so many times. Why will this time be different? She's thought that for years, but shocked herself when she said it out loud. Okay, what kind of negative baggage are we carrying around that we would even shock ourselves if we vocalized it? I mean, we can be very, very self-deceived sometimes. And so when she verbalized it, she realized how much power it had over her. And it was almost freeing in that moment for her to just say it out loud, realize that it's a lie, and then be able to move forward and move past that. So I think a part of developing the skill of a finisher, so it goes back to planning and executing a successful day. And we've talked a lot about this. Julia did a great training on it. Pam did too. But I always ask, what can add the greatest value? What can I do that will add the greatest value? Not what do I need to get done? Because often our to-do list doesn't rank the highest priority. We respond to the urgent and the easy, the urgent and the easy, the urgent and the easy, when we need to do the valuable, the difficult, the valuable, the difficult, the valuable, the difficult. I would rather not do the valuable and the difficult. The urgent and the easy is a lot easier. So I have to ask, what's going to add the greatest value to my day? What's going to add the greatest value? So back to belief, because I think it's such an important part of being a finisher. Is that belief piece of it. You can't just pretend to believe, okay? Although in Mary Kay, we have learned to just muster up some good old-fashioned belief, But at some level, you can't just pretend to believe if you don't believe. You can't do that, especially if you have a lot of negativity and doubts. You don't just wake up one day and flip a switch and think, all my negative thoughts are gone, yay. It's a lifelong pursuit. A daily pursuit, a moment-by-moment pursuit that you have to manage daily. And I think we have to create an environment of belief in our minds and in our hearts. And you do that through ordering the inner world and the private world. Ordering the inner life, the private life, the spiritual life is a way where we create an environment where belief can live. Belief lives there because of how you're ordering that part of your being. And so to become a masterful finisher, belief has to live with you. So you can go the distance and have the strength and resolve to fight with a level of peace and joy too. And if you're rushing around all day and all week doing, and not taking the time to develop that inner private world, belief will not live there. You haven't created an environment where belief dwells with you. So if we're rushing around doing all the time and we don't take the time to develop our inner private world, which is done in a lot of different ways, you don't have the strength to go the distance. You don't have the resolve to fight. You don't have an environment in your life where belief can live. And if you don't believe it, you throw in the towel. Or you ignore the qualifications or the requirements of how to finish the goal. Or, it manifests itself in all kinds of different ways. Tina?
You say that's why people, quote, burn out?
Burn out, absolutely. There's no resolve and strength within. I do believe that's why people burn out. Every day in my prayer journal, I would pray for wisdom and discernment beyond my years of experience. Wisdom and discernment beyond my years of experience for what was most important for the day. Because does anyone have a hard time prioritizing things sometimes? I'm like, I don't even know what's most important. Sometimes I have a hard time discerning that. And we don't see the big picture. We don't see the big picture. That's why I'm like, God, give me your wisdom and discernment, because I can't see it all. I can't see it all. And we're tugged in so many different ways, especially those of you who have children, and especially small children at home. There's a lot of people hungry for your attention and wanting to take it. Not to dog people who don't have kids. One of the things that annoyed me the most before I have kids is people would say, oh, you don't have kids, that's why you're successful. I'm like, no, it's really not it. I know plenty of people who don't have kids who are not, living to their fullest. So for those of you who don't, you have responsibilities, you have family, you have parents, we all have a lot of tugs in different directions in our life. But with kids, it just adds a new level of intensity. And so I would ask God, I'm like, be my ever-present guide. Be my ever-present guide. Like, this day is too important to not walk through it without you. Be my ever-present guide. And in Isaiah it says, he's a mighty God, our Prince of Peace, our everlasting Father, and our wonderful Counselor. And I would meditate on that. I would meditate on the fact that he's our wonderful Counselor. I'm like, counsel me, guide me. I need your wisdom and discernment. It's like Moses was praying to him and he wouldn't leave the mountain without him. He's like, I will not go without your presence. I will not go. And we have to start each new day and say, I will not go. I will not walk and live this life without your presence with me. And I'll tell you real quick, just kind of going back to the day, the 24-hour cycle. Some of you have heard me tell a story before, but I just love it so much that I'll tell it. I learned about Michael Phelps in this one book that Cindy recommended to me, The Power of Habit. And he of course, was just physically capable of swimming and had trained his physical body to be an incredible swimmer. But what his coach believes made the difference was his mental toughness. And he was taught to win and finish, not the big race, but to win and finish every day. His whole routine, his whole daily habits was so designed that every piece of it created a sense of victory. From what he ate to how many calories he consumed, warm up to his workouts, to what the music he listened to before a race, it was all planned out, all designed, all created to give him a sense of winning and intentionally designed to create a sense of victory. And so we have to do that. We have to do that. I am power and achievement. That is my number one need. Next to that, pretty close second, is freedom and choice. I can't wait for this stage to fill that need. I have to fulfill it every day. I have to fulfill it every single day. Like, I'm hungry to win. I'm hungry to win. Like, it's a burning desire. And I can't wait for seminar to experience that. God made me to win. I have to design it and execute that every single day. So it's in how I set up my day. Guys, the time I wake up is a win. Having a quiet time is a win. The food I eat is a win. The workout is a win. Everything's a win. It's all set up. When I finish the day, I know what I wanted the day to look like. And I go to bed feeling like, yes. Yep. I'm feeling like a winner. You know what the alternative is to that? Feeling like a loser. Feeling defeated, feeling behind, questions, doubts, fears. It gets complicated in there. It's really complicated, really clouded, really muddled. And so are you designing your day to win? Even if you're not power and achievement. I know not everybody's power and achievement, but we still have to design a day to win. Because we confuse success with the rewards of success. We think, I'll be successful when. I'll be successful when. You have something, you achieve something. No. You will throw in the towel too early. We have to experience success every day. And we can experience success every day. So important. Okay, so this one race Michael Phelps swam at the Olympics, he dove into the water and his goggles cracked immediately and filled up with water immediately. This is at the Olympics. And so, that's a big problem. And so he's swimming the race blind. And one thing apparently that swimmers rely on is being able to see where their competition is. They can see the swimmers next to them and where they're at. But he was so practiced. He knew exactly how many strokes it took, when he needed to breathe. But of course, he ran the race, but he was racing blind, so had a little bit of a disability with that. And so the book describes him approaching the finish line. Last lap, he's approaching the finish line. He hears the crowd going nuts, but he doesn't know if it's for him. He can't tell if he's in the lead or not. He hears the crowd going like nuts as they're approaching the finish of the race. He touches the wall, comes out of the water, looks at the screen, WR, world record. He broke the world record while swimming blind, and his coach believes he was able to do that. He was able to do that because of the mental toughness and how his sense of victory and winning was so strong. and that he won every day, and that the big victories were just an overflow of how he learned to win in every moment and in every habit. Some of you said this to me, I won't name any names, that, oh man, I might have not pushed as hard for Reds and DIQs if this event wasn't happening, the June 1st deadline. And so I'm going to invite you to think this thought, okay? I'm just going to invite you to ponder this. Why not? Why not? Why isn't that sort of push for growth in your unit happening every month? Because I believe that's what masterful finishers do. They create that sort of urgency, even without a deadline for an event or promotion, because their vision is so clear, their focus is so clear, and they're just naturally working in a state of urgency without external pressures of an event or a promotion or a deadline. They've created intrinsic motivation, and that's the best kind of motivation. It's coming from within, that they don't need an external deadline or a promotion to be given to them. It's just something that they naturally do. There were some NSDs and some of my NSD girlfriends in London who asked me, like, well, do you see some of your directors becoming nationals? I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, some of them, absolutely. Like, so many of them, I can see them moving into that position. But that intrinsic motivation to hone in on a goal and wrap your heart and mind around it and execute days successfully moving towards that vision is something to really learn to cultivate and practice each day. And so I'm going to finish with a story and then I'll be done. I recently read this in a book, and it's a story of former President Jimmy Carter, who years ago applied for service in the Navy under Admiral Rickover. Okay, I read this story on a call for Roya Mattis's national area that I did a couple of days before I came here. And I didn't know much about this admiral, but apparently like the strength of the Navy is what it is today. It can be accredited to him. And he had this incredible ability to see the best and draw out the best in the men that he led. And so one of her directors sent me this long Facebook message about her husband's in the Navy, and it was neat to learn more about him. And so this is Jimmy Carter's account of this interview with Admiral Rickover. I had applied for the nuclear submarine program, and Admiral Rickover was interviewing me for the job. It was the first time I had met him, and we sat in a large room by ourselves for more than 2 hours, and he let me choose any subjects I wished to discuss. So very carefully, I chose those about which I knew the most, which was current events, seamanship, music, literature, naval tactics, electronics, and gunnery. He began to ask me a series of questions of increasing difficulty, and in each instance, he soon proved that I knew relatively little about the subject I had chosen. He always looked me right in the eye, and he never smiled. I was saturated with a cold, nervous sweat. And then finally, he asked me a question. I thought I could redeem myself. He said, "How did you stand in your class at the Naval Academy?" I had done very well, and I swelled my chest with pride, and I answered, "Sir, I stood 59th in a class of 820, and I sat back to wait for the congratulations, which never came. Instead, the question, did you do your best?" And I started to say, "Yes, sir." But then I recalled the several times at the academy when I could have learned more, I could have done more, I could have gone the extra mile, but I didn't. And I finally gulped and I said, "No, sir, I didn't always do my best." He looked at me for a long time, and then he turned his chair around to end the interview. And he asked one final question, which I have never been able to forget or to answer. He said, "Why not?" And I sat there for a while, shaken, and then I slowly left the room. That encounter became the thought starter for Carter's book, Why Not the Best? And it is a worthwhile question for us all to ponder. And is not the woman who claims to walk with Christ owe her Creator excellence and the best of every day that we're given to live on this earth? Because our days are numbered. We have learned that very recently. Our days are numbered. We're not always promised tomorrow. So does not the woman who claims to walk with Christ owe her Creator excellence and the best of every day that we're given to live? And that's what I had.